सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः।
Let us begin with a few moments of meditation together. Allow your eyes to close. And allow that power of awareness to shift from fluttering around in the world outside you to being anchored into your breath. Very consciously take that power of awareness and bring the awareness to your breath. Don't try to change your breath, but simply allow your awareness to become fully merged into the breath. Allow the awareness to merge in the inhalations and exhalations. You're not judging. You're not trying to change anything. You're simply witnessing with the fullness of the power of awareness. You're simply witnessing the breath. If the mind wanders, just gently bring it back. Just allow that awareness to be fully centered on the breath, fully merged into the breath. There will always be distractions, sounds, sensations, thoughts. But notice the power of the intention of awareness, that you have that power. Even when there's sounds or sensations in the outer world, you have that power to direct the attention where you want it to go. So take that attention, that full awareness, and merge it into your breath. And as you breathe, notice how on the inhalations you're inhaling from the outside to the inside, and how on the exhalations you are exhaling from what seems like the inside to what seems like the outside. So it seems like we're bringing the outer to the inner on the inhalations, and sending from the inner to the outer on the exhalations. But allow yourself to become really still, really still. And in that stillness, notice that the borders and the boundaries between inner and outer dissolve. Notice as you breathe, when you're very, very still, that those borders and boundaries between the inner and the outer notice them dissolving. There is no inner, and there is no outer. There is just breath, and there is awareness. Allow those borders and boundaries to dissolve. And allow yourself just to rest for a moment in that spacious awareness. Where there is no place you end and the world begins. Slowly and gently, bring the palms of your hands together at chest level. Rub them gently against each other. Press the palms of your hands into your closed eyes. Slowly open the eyes and lower the hands. Welcome to Satsang. So beautiful to be together. So wonderful to be back. Those of you who were here day before yesterday know that I was out yesterday at a function in Kanpur, and it was beautiful, but as I mentioned on the banks of Ganga in the Aarti, it's such a gift to be back here with clean air and clean water and leaves on the trees that actually look green rather than brown. Things that we take for granted in a place that's clean, and then you go somewhere where the air pollution is so much that even the leaves on the trees have become brown from the dirt, and the air is just thick. It's always a gift being here, but being away for a day or two just makes you reappreciate what an incredible gift it is to be able to be here. So we start, as always, with a question that's come in advance from our family online, and then we'll open it up to any questions that any of you have. How do we deal with the fear and uncertainty that may come from complete surrender? That feeling that we'll never be able to do what we want ever again. So, when we talk about surrender, in a spiritual level, we talk about surrendering to the divine. We talk sometimes about surrendering to the Guru. But what's really important to realize is they're not working against you. It's not like surrendering in war, where you say, mine, and you pull it and you say mine, and I say mine, and you say mine, and finally I surrender and I say fine, you take it, and now I have no more pillow. It's not that type of surrender that leaves me metaphorically pillowless, where I had something that I wanted and now I don't have it because I had no choice but to surrender it to you. It's not like, a bad divorce or something. Whether we surrender to the divine in a nameless, formless way, in a specific way through the Guru, we're surrendering really to an energy of wisdom, an energy of awakening, an energy of truth that's working for you. That's what the surrender is. So it's not about, well, I won't be able to do what I ever want again. Who's the I that's separate from God? What do you mean, what I want to do? Well, if you surrender to God, then that which you want to do will become that will of God flowing through you. There's not two. We've got to take these, war analogies out of our spiritual conception. So in a war, if I surrender, you get all my stuff. Right? The winners of the war come in and they take everything over. In spirituality, when we surrender, all we're doing is we're letting go of our own ignorance. We're letting go of our own attachment to ignorance. We're letting go of our illusion. That's all we're surrendering, is untruth for truth, ignorance for wisdom, so that divine flows through us. So yeah, don't be afraid of surrendering. As you surrender, your entire will shifts. What you want changes. If you say, I've surrendered to God, but, oh my God, I really want this and this and this, but I know God's not going to give it to me, and it's not part of this deal. Well, then you haven't really surrendered. Right? I mean, why would you surrender? Think about it. Let's take a step back. If it's not war, why would you surrender? If you are attached to what you have, you really believe it's what you want, what's going to bring you happiness, well, why in the world would you give that up? You only would do it when you realize it's not giving you what you want. And that which you're surrendering to is going to give you what you want. That I'm letting go of my attachment. My favorite example of this began, I've been giving this example for 25 years. When people used to ask me, but don't you miss America? Don't you miss all of what you had? And don't you feel like you've left everything? And so this analogy came to me then, but it's just gotten stronger since then. And it's, imagine that you are walking on a beach and your hands are empty, and so you collect shiny rocks and seashells, because why not? Your hands are empty. And that's kind of what most of us do in our life. We move through life and we collect. We collect actual possessions, we collect pleasures, we collect titles, we collect relationships, we collect all these things because otherwise our hands are empty. And these are things that sort of make us feel like I have something. Then we start to identify with those things. I am the one who owns this, who has that, who did this. But then now imagine you get to the end of the beach. Now your hands are full of these rocks and shells. But at the end of the beach, there's a guy with a bucket full of diamonds. And he's pouring the bucket full of diamonds out to anybody who will just put their hands under his bucket. Now, what are you going to do with your handful of rocks and seashells? What are you going to do with it? Right, yeah, exactly. Let it go. But does that feel like surrender? I mean, do you feel like you're having to let go of something that you really, really wanted? No, because you realize what's being offered to me is something so much more beneficial. I was collecting these things because my hands were empty. Now that you're offering diamonds, well, yeah, sure. Take my rocks, take my seashells, put them back on the beach. I'll go home with a handful of diamonds. And that's what the spiritual path gives us. That's what, for me, being in India all of these years has always felt like. And it felt like people were saying, but don't you miss those rocks and seashells and, that sparkly one? So when you surrender, you're surrendering the rocks and seashells. Nobody's saying thou shalt give up things that you really want. I mean, God's not this characterization, caricature of, the authoritarian, really strict parental figure who doesn't let you play with your toys and doesn't let you have dessert and doesn't let you run around in the grass. That's not who God is. God's not looking to take away from you that which actually brings you joy. God's looking to give you diamonds if you're prepared to let go of the seashells and rocks. So the surrender simply says, I recognize that what I'm holding on to isn't actually giving me what I really want. Therefore, I surrender to you because you are the path of light, of truth, of oneness, of wholeness, of fullness. And that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for. And so I'm going to let go of all of that makes me not able to take what you are offering. Meaning all that stuff I'm attached to. Those metaphoric rocks and seashells. But do not think it means that you don't get what you want. But what you want starts to shift. Because you start to taste something so much more beautiful than that which you thought was bringing you joy and fun. So surrender without any fear. That which you want, really, on the deepest level, you'll have it. You may not have it in the package that you thought it was going to come in. But that which you really want, the joy, the love, the belonging, the oneness, the connection, the peace, the wisdom, the meaning, that's what you get when you surrender to the divine. Any questions here? Yeah, one and then two.
Yeah, it's such a blessing to be in your presence. The question I have is, like in most of the spiritual teachings, it's always asked to stay in the present moment. However, we humans have been given the power to look into the future or look into the past, maybe because of some evolutionary reasons. How do we balance that? Can we always stay in the present, or do we also plan for the future or learn from the past?
Great. So, being in the present doesn't mean thou shalt not plan. It doesn't mean thou shalt not learn. What it means is thou shalt not ruminate. Meaning, let's say something happened yesterday. Let's say, for example, I was walking on the banks of Ganga, and I was walking on the banks of Ganga right after Aarti time, and there was a big crowd, and I was going one direction, and everybody was going in the other direction, and I tried to kind of scoot over a little bit this way, but it was too big of a crowd, and I ended up slipping, and I twisted my ankle. Okay? Let's just make up a story like that. Kind of run-of-the-mill, random, things in life happen type of story. Now, the lesson of that is a very good one. Tonight, I'm not going to walk against a sea of people coming in one direction in a narrow marketplace. If I've got to go in the other direction, I'm going to go 5 minutes before Aarti ends, or I'm going to wait for a while. Come in, have something to drink, be in satsang, whatever it may be, and then I will go. Great lesson. We all should learn lessons. Maybe it's also a lesson about, next time you need to move around a crowd, don't actually go off the road into a place where it's just rocks, because you're very likely, especially at night when you can't see, especially when there's a crowd, especially when it's wet and slippery, you're very likely to fall. So now I've learned another lesson as well. A specific one about this path, and a general one about taking care of my legs. But here's what most of us do. My God, I cannot believe it. Those people were so rude. I mean, they saw me. They saw me. I know they saw me. I looked in her eyes. She saw me. But she pushed me anyway. I can't believe it. I can't believe people. And they just walked out of Aarti. Like, what is wrong with them? What is wrong with people in general? Oh my God, you know what? I am so fed up with all of this spirituality stuff, because look, those people walking out of Aarti pushed me. Now I am in a caste. Why me? Like, why did that happen to me? Things like this always happen to me. Okay, you see the difference? The first one is beneficial. I got 2 good lessons out of it. The second one is an utter and complete ridiculous waste of my time and energy. All it does is make me more and more miserable by the moment, pulls me out of the beautiful experience I have had in the Aarti, pulls me out of the actual truth, which is I'm not separate from those people who happened to bump into me, due to which I fell. We're actually all one. But in my mind, as I judge them and criticize them and make them the other, I'm just creating walls, creating more and more illusion, more and more ignorance. That's the kind of stuff you don't want to do. But another thing that we do in the past is we redo conversations. So somebody maybe was rude to us. Maybe in that moment we didn't have such a great comeback, right? But 3, 4, 5 hours later, as we're drifting off to sleep, we're like, oh my God, I know what I should have said. All right, next time they say that to me, this is going to be my comeback. We're stuck in the past. We're not learning from it. It has followed us into the present in a way that is ruining the present. I'm rehaving conversations that hurt me again and again and again. Or I'm planning for the future, not in the effective way, like get out your planner and actually, okay, I've got 3 days off, what am I going to do? Or, okay, I've got 30 days till my rent is due and I don't have any money, how am I going to manage that? Not that type of planning. What a lot of us do is we plan conversations that never actually happen. We get very worried. Oh my God, they're going to be so angry at me. Okay, this is what they're going to say, and then this is what I'm going to say, and then, oh God, I know they're just going to hate me forever. They'll never talk to me again. Okay, so here's what I should say. We're stuck in a situation that's a figment of our imagination. We have no idea how that other person is going to walk in. We have no idea what's going to happen between now and then that's going to change our reality. And by that type of anxiety-ridden pre-conversation, pre-assumption, we deprive ourselves of being present in that moment. Because then in that moment, all I'm doing is reciting lines that I planned in this moment. So in this moment, I'm not here because I'm preparing my script for then. Then, when it actually arrives as the present moment, I'm also not there because I'm reciting a script that was written hours or days ago that energetically doesn't actually have any truth and relevance to that present moment. So when we're taught be present, what it means is, number one, realize that which you want, joy, peace, connection, fulfillment, deep experiences, they can only be had in the present moment. You cannot have any of those experiences yesterday or tomorrow. I cannot be happy tomorrow. When tomorrow becomes now, then I have the possibility to be happy. But if all I do is live in the next moment, I'll never be happy. The best way to actually be happy tomorrow is to be happy now. And then I'm happy in the next moment, then in the next moment, then in the next moment. Then when tomorrow arises as the now, I will already be happy because that's who I am. But most of us think, oh, when this and this happens, then I'll be happy. I just need this, then I'll be happy. Meaning, I'm happy next week. But by the time next week has arisen, there's something else that you need to be happy. And our whole life goes on like that. So the command to be in the present says, this is your only opportunity. Right here, right now, in this breath. If you're not happy, it's very unlikely that you're going to find that happiness in the future. So find it here, right now. And yeah, if you've got a lesson from the past, that's great. That helps you in the present. Plan for the future, absolutely. It's going to become the present. But don't live there. Do the work, learn the lesson, do the planning, lay the groundwork. Right? Chipmunks collect nuts for the winter. Bears build caves that they're going to hibernate in. All of nature prepares itself for that which is coming. But you don't see chipmunks freaking out. Oh my God, winter's coming. Do I have enough nuts? Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Last winter I had more nuts. He's got more nuts than I do. Oh my God, winter's coming. Right? They just do their thing. They collect the nuts. If they were hungry last winter, they learned a lesson. They collect more, but they don't freak out about it. You don't see the bears going, oh my God, I just know it's going to start to snow before I finish my cave. Oh my God, what am I going to do? There won't be a cave, and it's going to snow, and I'm supposed to hibernate, and I won't have a cave. Oh my God, I know it's going to happen. Never, you never see that. That's the teaching. Prepare for the future, but don't live in it. Live here. As you're collecting your nuts, as you're building your cave, be in this breath, in this moment, right here, right now, even though what you're doing is building your home for the future. But your mind is here, the awareness is here. Does that make sense? Good. Yes. Aapko piche.
Thanks for taking my question. Those sample internal monologues sound very familiar. I've been struggling to reconcile, the idea of avoiding evil people, being content, not being attached to the state or anything in the world, with trying to fight for social justice and help people. And I'm wondering, if you're not attached to anything and you're content with everything, then why bother trying to help others?
Beautiful and very important question. There seems to be two conflicting things. One that says not only be in the present, but accept everything, no attachments, recognize the perfection of it all. And then the other that says, but wait, people are hungry. People are sick. Women are dying in childbirth. People don't have water. Trees are being cut down. Species are going extinct. We need to act. On how to reconcile those. This is actually one of my favorite topics because I'm very, very committed to social justice, very committed to action. And here's how I understand it. The universe is perfect. Because the Creator, God, is perfect. Therefore, the creation by the perfect Creator is perfect. To say that we need to do something somehow implies that that Creator might not be perfect. However, in that perfect creation, you are there. You are part of the perfect creation. You're not separate from it. You are a critical, perfect part of the perfect creation. And the tears that you cry when you see children who are starving, or you see people being discriminated against, or whatever it is that fills you with that sense of, I need to do something, well, that's part of the perfection. It would be like saying, is a flower just as perfect if it no longer has fragrance? Well, fragrance-giving flowers, roses, jasmine, etc., the fragrance is a a core part of the perfection of that flower. You could even say it is the dharma of the flower to give the fragrance. From the flower, the fragrance comes. From you, the action comes. Is an apple tree just as perfect if it never gives apples? Well, it's not really fulfilling its dharma as an apple tree, right? If it was created here as a perfection of an apple tree, but it never gave you any apples, it wouldn't really be doing its perfect dharma. Your fruit, your fragrance, is that which you give to the world, which makes the world more perfect. Our world is perfect in the apples that come from apple trees, in the fragrance that come from roses and jasmines. And you responding to injustice is a critical part of the perfection. So for you to say, I'm not going to act, would be like the rose saying, nah, I've decided I'm not going to give any more fragrance. Tired of it. Nobody appreciates me. Forget it. It would no longer be as full and perfect of a rose, because it would be denying its very nature. And so that's how I understand that criticalness of action is, if we don't act, we are not upholding our perfect part of the perfect creation. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is, in Hinduism we have the Vedas, 4 main ones, but many other ones. The essence of the Vedas is what's called the Upanishads, which are seen as really an essence of the Vedas. So rather than this seemingly infinite amount of text in the Vedas, you have the Upanishads, which are significantly more digestible for those who are not dedicating their entire lives to the study of one particular Veda, for example. The crystallization, the distillation of the Upanishads is said to be the Bhagavad Gita. So imagine you've taken all of the Vedas and you've put it into 700 verses. That's the Bhagavad Gita. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, the embodiment of God, tells us that we have to act. The entire Bhagavad Gita is about God explaining to us through Arjuna that it is our duty to restore dharma when there is a dharma. A dharma is unrighteousness. Dharma you could consider righteousness. That's what that war was about. Arjuna said, forget it, I don't care, let them keep the land. I'm not going to fight. It's not worth it. Let them have the kingdom. But what Krishna explained to him was, this wasn't a war over land. This was a war over dharma. And that it was Arjuna's duty not to fight for a chunk of land or a kingdom of people, but to fight to restore righteousness, to restore light, to restore dharma. And I take that as a really personal teaching. Because even though we're not in that same exact situation on a battlefield of Kurukshetra, fighting our literal cousins for some land, there's a lot of wars going on today. A lot of us versus them, a lot of greed, a lot of harm, a lot of stealing of each other's rights. And just as Krishna told Arjuna, you need to fight to restore the Dharma. Well, he's telling us the same thing. He didn't tell Arjuna become furious about it. So it's not about lose yourself. It's not about don't be able to eat or sleep because you're so full of rage that you lose your anchoring and grounding. No. But it's about be anchored, be grounded, and then fight. There's a beautiful line where Krishna tells him, remember me and fight the war. Very simple. Remember me means stay connected to God. Don't forget, it's all perfect. It's all me, it's all God, it's all one. Don't forget that. Don't lose yourself in thinking it's all about this battle. Don't lose yourself in thinking that our whole world is all about injustice and discrimination and hunger and poverty. Remember the perfection. Remember that it's all God. And fight the war. Because you've got to restore that Dharma. And that seemingly unreconcilable opposites, when they become that which you meditate upon, that becomes the way that you serve. It becomes yes and, it's not either or. Yes, everything is perfect. Yes, everything is God. And in that perfection is me fighting this battle. Is me restoring this Dharma. And yes, it's all God. And yes, it's all perfect. And tomorrow I will get up again and fight for it again. Because that is part of the perfection, is for me to fight to make that, to change this. Just because it's perfect doesn't mean it shouldn't be changed. Right? It's perfect because it's God. And God is telling you, change this. Yeah. But remember me and remember it's perfect. So don't think it's about you. Don't think it's all on your shoulders. Don't be a chicken with your head cut off. Don't get caught up in the rage, in the narrow vision. Remember me. Stay anchored in me, grounded in me, and fight that war. Yeah. Yes.
Hi. I think the analogies and metaphors that you've used are beautiful. It's so simple yet so very effective. I had this question, but I think you've already answered the question that you just answered. I think it's a beautiful, relevant question, and the answer very amazing. But I'm just extending that a little bit. I'm trying to recollect what you said, right? You're talking about the pure environment, water, air, right? And places such as Rishikesh, Varanasi, they're all very pure and very divine places. But unfortunately...
Can you speak a little more into the mic? It'll just make it easier to hear you. There.
Am I more audible now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay, so all that I'm trying to say is, you were talking about purity of air, water, environment, right? In places such as these, Rishikesh, Varanasi, Kailash, these are all very divine places with so much purity and divinity, right? But unfortunately, because they are also attracting a lot of people, it's become more commercialized, and thereby it is also becoming more anti-environment, right? So
Yes.
could be, is there a way that we could continue doing what we're doing and strip away of all the pollution that we're creating?
Strip away all the?
Sorry?
Strip away, what were the last two words?
Strip away all the pollution that
The
we're
pollution.
creating.
It's,
And the commercialization.
yeah, well, it's a great point, and it's a challenge. It's a challenge of civic development. You know, here you have these holy cities, these beautiful places, these holy lands that obviously everyone wants to come to. They are by nature not only spiritually sacred, but pristine also, the air, the water, the land. But of course, the more and more people you have, the more pollution they bring in. This is what we call social responsibility. Can we, as in we, us, the people who live here, somehow change that? Well, it depends on you, the people who come in. We're not polluting. What happens is the people who come in, everybody wants to come in, you know, by their own car. People don't want to walk so much, they want cars. The cars pollute. People go through the market, they buy chips, they buy cookies, they buy this, they don't bring bags from home, they get plastic bags, they take the bag of chips after they've eaten it and they dump it on the side of the road. They want, you know, newer, better places to stay. You know, there's a clamoring on the part of those who come for more of this, more of that. And the way that the economy works is something called supply and demand, right? So the more of a demand there is, business people see a possibility. So in a place where there used to be only a few ashrams, I mean, when I came to Rishikesh 26 years ago, there was one hotel in this whole area. The whole area, all the way as far as you could walk down on the banks of Ganga before you fell in, literally down past Maharishiji's ashram. From there, all the way up to Ramjula, there was one hotel. Almost all the way up to Lakshmanjula, but around Lakshmanjula there were more, and there were more on the other side. But here, this whole area, one hotel. One option we had. Now, God, you couldn't even count them. People's sensibilities have changed. It used to be that people understood they were coming to a holy tirtha, a pilgrimage place. And they came with a bhav, a feeling of that. They understood we'll be sleeping on the floor, we'll be bathing in cold water or on the bank, you know, in the waters of Ganga. We'll be, you know, having simple meals, sitting in a line, having, you know, simple food served to us. And that was part of the experience. That was the fun of it. So many people I meet who, you know, have been coming to Rishikesh since they were little kids. Now they're in their 40s, 50s. And they're like, God, you know, when we were young, we would come, and it changed us. We'd come spend the summers here, and we really learned so much. Now what's happened is people have gotten a lot more focused on their own comfort. Everybody wants ACs in the summertime. People want heating in the wintertime. People want TVs in their room. People want this. They want that. They want high-speed Wi-Fi. I mean, they want so many things that business then comes in and says, well, all right, fine, we'll give you that. We'll just build some more hotels. And the more people need more and more, as long as you've got a free market society, that's what's going to happen. I mean, you would have to essentially say nobody is allowed to build, but that would change the whole nature of our society. Instead, we have to change the demand. Rather than worrying about changing the supply, we work on changing the demand. If people who came were focused on just the spiritual energy of the place. Less focused on necessarily eating at a different restaurant every single night. Less focused on, staying at a hotel with as many amenities as they get when they stay in Paris. Well, there would be less development. Therefore, there would be less what you call commercialization. It's just development. The hotels and the restaurants themselves are not commercial. It's a development response to what people who come want. If there were no market, they wouldn't do it. So what we really need is for people to have that feeling of going to visit a tirth stan, going to visit a pilgrimage area. I remember when we went to Kailash Mansarovar for the first time in '98, there was nothing. It's what led Pujya Swamiji to actually build an ashram there. There was nothing indoor. You couldn't get a tank of gas, a bottle of water, a Band-Aid for days. After you left that border, the border between Nepal and Tibet, at Nilam, after you left that, it was days before you'd find a place to buy a bottle of water or a Band-Aid or an apple. When we went, we had tankers filled with petrol for our cars because there were no gas stations. There were no bridges over rivers. You literally had to drive your cars through rivers, and they would get stuck, and then you would tie ropes, and 50 Sherpas would, pull a car out of the river. But it had its own beauty in it. When we went the last time in 2009, it had been only a 11-year difference. And in 11 years, everything had changed. And now I've heard so much more has changed even. It's the demand of those who go. So it's why we need to change our way of thinking. It's not that there's anything wrong with a comfy bed, a nice hotel, nothing wrong with that. But we just have to realize that everything has a ripple impact. And that all of the demand for that means that more and more land, more and more mountains are being cut upon which to build hotels. More and more land is being cut upon which to build more and more restaurants. So you end up decimating the land. And then, we have floods and things fall in Ganga because people want riverfront views, and so they're building hotels right on the banks of the river where they shouldn't be, where they're told not to, but they do it anyway. And then floodwaters come and they eat away the side of the mountain, and then the whole hotel collapses into the waters of Ganga, and it's a huge tragedy. But it's about changing our demand. And so that's up to all of us. If, those of us who are here are doing all we can to keep it pollution-free, working really hard to keep it pollution-free. But the greatest energy is of those who are coming. It's why every night we take pledges on the banks of Ganga. We will keep our planet clean. But you're all the ones who go away from that pledge, who then get to decide either we're going to abide by it or we won't. That's up to you. So this is the social movement that's needed by you all to keep things clean. Beautiful. Have a beautiful rest of your evening. A beautiful morning and day to our family joining us from all over the world. And I look so forward to seeing you all tomorrow. So much love to you.
मैली चादर ओढ़ के कैसे मैं